John stepped out of the glass office building, his face red with fury. He slammed the car door and threw his briefcase onto the passenger seat so hard the leather groaned. Around him, the New York sirens screamed, yet his eyes caught something strange. An old janitor, standing perfectly still, watering a small plant in the biting winter cold. John froze, watching the man's quiet peace, and wondered, why do we always try so hard to protect the very things that are suffocating us? John walked over to the old man, his breath coming in short, ragged clouds. "I've given them everything," he said, his voice thick with a bitterness he couldn't hide. "I spend every waking hour building a life for my family. I sacrifice my health, my time, my peace. But instead of thanks, I get indifference. It feels like I'm under constant attack from the very people I love." The old man turned off the water. He didn't offer a cliché about patience or hard work. He simply looked at John with a gaze that was both heavy and kind. After a moment of silence, he spoke. "If you are freezing because they offer you no warmth, then perhaps you should burn down the very thing you are holding so tightly." John stared at him, completely stunned. "Burn it? Are you joking? I've spent my life building this. Why would I destroy my own world just because I'm hurting?" He felt a flash of irritation. This wasn't the advice he expected. The old man didn't flinch. He leaned against the stone wall and looked out at the gray city sky. "We often mistake our pride for our protection," he whispered. "We think the walls keep us safe, but sometimes they only keep us cold." Suddenly, the noise of the city seemed to fade away. The old man's voice became calm and steady, like a storyteller by a fire. "Long ago," he began, "there was a king who ruled a kingdom made of ice and stone. One night, a group of strangers arrived at his gates, shivering and broken. The king had no wood left for the fire, and his people were losing hope. In a kingdom far from here, a winter arrived that was so harsh the very birds froze in mid-air. The king sat in his great hall as guests began to arrive. Beggars, weary travelers, and even a few men who had once betrayed his trust. All of them were shivering, their skin turning a deathly blue. The king looked at the fireplace. The wood was gone. Only a few dying embers remained. He looked at his guests and saw their trembling hands and hollow eyes. He knew that by morning, none of them would be alive. Suddenly, the king stood up. He pointed to the massive, hand-carved oak doors of the great hall. "Take them down," he commanded. His guards were shocked. "But sire, those doors have stood for 300 years. "Burn them," the king replied calmly. The heavy wood was thrown into the fire. The flames roared back to life. But it wasn't enough. The king then pointed to the priceless paintings of his ancestors and the silken tapestries on the walls. One by one, the history of his family was fed to the flames. He even gave up the wooden throne he sat upon. Slowly, the hall began to glow with a deep red warmth. The guests leaned in, their faces softening as the heat returned to their bodies. The grand castle was becoming an empty shell. The gold was gone, the art was gone, and the grandeur was replaced by bare stone. Yet, as the people began to laugh and breathe again, the hall felt more alive than it ever had. One guest looked at the empty room and whispered, "Your Majesty, you have destroyed your home to save us. It is just a hollow building now." The king looked at the fire and smiled. "A castle is built to protect people," he said. "If it only remains as cold walls watching people die, it is no longer a castle. It is just a stone tomb. I would rather live in a pile of ash with a living friend than in a palace of gold with a ghost." The old man looked at John's expensive car and his tailored suit. "John," he said softly, "your anger is just the sound of you trying to keep the doors of your own castle shut. You've built a life of high walls, your status, your image, and your pride. You think these walls protect you, but right now, they are just cold stones." John looked down at his hands, still clenched into fists. He felt the weight of his own expectations crushing him. "You feel attacked because you are waiting for them to bring you wood for your fire," the old man continued. "You think that because you built the house, they owe you the warmth. But look at the king. He didn't wait for his guests to thank him. He burned his own pride. He dismantled his own throne to make sure no one else felt the cold." John's heart hammered against his chest. "But if I stop demanding respect, if I just give everything, won't I have nothing left?" "On the contrary," the old man smiled. "When you burn your vanity and your expectations of being thanked, you don't lose your castle. You simply turn dead, cold objects into eternal warmth. Material things can be stolen or broken, but the warmth you give to a human soul stays forever." He placed a hand on John's shoulder. "It's okay to feel angry, John. It's a human emotion. But don't let that anger become a wall that shuts everyone out. Don't let it put out the fire of your compassion." John took a long, deep breath. The tension in his neck began to melt away. He looked at his car, then back at the office building, and for the first time in years, the walls didn't seem so important anymore. He slowly opened his hands, letting the anger escape like smoke into the winter air. Sometimes, to keep this world from being cold, we need the courage to burn the things we value most. A peaceful world doesn't start with stronger walls, but with the fires we light for each other. If you've been feeling cold inside your own castle lately, leave a heart in the comments as a promise to be gentler with yourself and those around you. Stay warm and remember, your warmth is your true wealth.